Okay, so we're talking about classical music recording today. Um, it's a pretty big topic, so I we can only touch it here basically. Um, so that's why I have decided to just give an overview about my workflow basically, and just how I do it, how I approach classical music recordings. And hi, Louis. um, and yeah, so first, I'm going to tell a little bit about me because most of you might know me as from game audio, from my game audio side, and might be wondering why is she talking now about classic music? What does she know about it? Then I'm going to quickly go over what I think are the quirks of classical music, like the um, characteristics, basically, and then I would just go through my preparations, what I do to prepare a recording, and how the actual recording day will go. So quickly about me, I'm currently a tech sound designer at Sound Studio. Before I have worked as a freelancer and I have worked for Boom Library and then a Median. And before that, I studied sound engineering. This is where the classical music comes in. I'm a classical trained musician, so I had some instrument courses at uni, and I have been working at the local concert hall, recording the concerts there. Also, during COVID, when there were no concerts, well, at least no audience for the concerts, we did some live streams, which was also pretty cool. So then we will go to what I think. I'm sorry, what I think are the quirks of classical music. First thing is the room. For lots of genres like pop or rock recordings, you don't want the room. You don't want many room reflections. You want a nice, clean studio. And for classical music, we want a little bit the opposite. We like the reflections, we like the room sound, and we especially put microphones up to catch the natural reverb of a room. So when I go recording, I always wish for a room like this, for example. It's a nice studio. Of course, it is a little bit more dry in here, um, but they have really thought through the reflections, so it's just a really nice sounding room. Or you want something like this. Of course, this was built to sound good. Um, but as you start out, especially if you're starting out, or you're just not a top uh, recordist, top tonmeister, you will often end up in rooms like this or in rooms like this. So first thing I have learned was you can make a bad ensemble sound good in a good room, but you cannot make a bad ensemble sound good in a room like this. It's a struggle. It's always a struggle with the room. So yeah, that's the first thing I've learned. You might be able to make the bad ensemble sound very good in the room I showed before, like in a really good room. Yeah, but the opposite is it's quite difficult. It can be difficult. And the second thing I think is special for classical music is the score. Like, yeah, we are pretty dependent on a score. I know, and I absolutely include myself here because I am lost without a score. I'm lost without my sheet music. Um, so yeah, this is pretty uncommon in other genres, and I mean, yeah. So I'm sorry, confusing. So as a sound engineer, as a recordist, I have to be able to read it, and I have to be able to follow it while the music is playing. And plus, I have to take notes. I have to notice mistakes. So if you want to get into classical music recording, definitely learn how to read a score. Then we will get a little bit go over what I do to prepare before recording. Know the piece you're recording. The nice part about classical music is that it has been recorded numerous times in history. There are lots of great recordings, different interpretations. Yeah, they're all there. I go just on YouTube, look them up, look different interpretations up, see what I like. Next thing is know the instruments you're recording. It might sound simple, but every instrument has its quirks, its problems, its limitations, or just technical things like directional characteristics. So you have to check where is the best place to put a microphone for this instrument. So if you don't know what you're recording, you can look it up. This is actually a very great resource. It's a book called Acoustics and the Performance of Music. It has just a ton of useful information. So quickly going to explain what you see here. It is the directional characteristic of an oboe from above. So you're looking on the oboe player's head, basically. And you can see how these are the frequency ranges, and this is the angle where those frequencies will go in which direction. So you can see the angle gets smaller the higher the frequency, but there are also some weird things around certain frequency ranges, like this one. There's basically nothing, or very not so much in the 0 degree direction, but a lot in this direction, for example. So these are things you can just look up if you don't know. Of course, you can also, if the instrument is playing, you can also go around it, just listen where it sounds good, where it sounds different, what sound do you want. But it's great to just have it, just know these things before you record, so you have a little bit of knowledge about this. In the book, it's also there's more. They have, like, it's going over lots of classical instruments, covers harmonic structure, frequency range, formants, etc. It's really interesting. I can recommend. And the last thing we touched already is you have to know the score. You have to read it while you're listening. You have to find the place again when you're doing other things while you're recording. You're checking, I don't know, you're marking a take, or you're checking something else, and you have to find the place in the score again where the music is. So just be really good with your score. And what I tend to do is make a rough plan of where takes can start and end, because classical music is often very long. Like the symphony is an hour maybe, and you cannot record this in one take, or even smaller pieces, shorter pieces are really long compared to other genres. So you won't record it all in one take. I just make a plan of logical parts. Where can I cut it? What takes do I have to record together, because they have some kind of structure that needs to be heard over the take, and these things. And I also mark difficult parts, because just in some pieces, the musician's gonna make mistakes at certain parts because they're just difficult. And so then you already know you have to make multiple takes to get it right. The second part of it is a microphone plan. I make a microphone plan pretty much exactly like I want to equip every instrument. I make an equipment list of what I need, what else I need, like cables, tape, microphone stands, enough microphone holder clips. What is this called? I have no idea. Just gather all the material. And I would also draft a quick layout of the ensemble and where I want to put my microphones. I will show you that in a bit. But first, yeah, of course, communication. You have to talk to the people you're recording. Talk to the musicians. I'm sorry, the manager of the ensemble or the conductor or whoever is responsible to communicate with you and give you info. Just get as much info as you can. You will probably need it all. Like if you record in a room you have never been before and you don't have access to the room, usually like a church, say you're recording in a church, you will be there earlier than the ensemble. So how do you get in? Who has the key? Can you get a key where you can set up your stuff? All these things. This is what I would gather in advance. This is a rough microphone plan, how I would do one. This is for an orchestra from above, and you can see basically the structure of the orchestra. So string section, we have a piano, double bass. It's in German, but I mean I guess you get the point. Woodwinds. Here's brass. Here's the French horn, and up here's drums, etc. And what I would do is, basically make a mock-up of how and where I want to put microphones. So in this case, I have my main microphones, also the big dots. This is how I would position them. That we will touch on microphone positions in a little bit, but this is something I can't cover in this one talk because it's a huge topic in itself. So I'm just going to show this. It just will give you this and let you be with it. In this case, this is my main microphones. These are additional microphones that are there to record the outer parts of the orchestra because it is really wide in this case, and I want to have good representation in the mix of the outer parts too. And then I have all my small additional microphones that I will roughly position, so I know when I come and set up and nobody's there, because this takes a long time to set up, and the musicians don't want to wait for you. So I will be there early, so I just know where do I put what roughly. Yeah, it's also good to check if you have every microphone you like to bring. Okay, so this is basically all of the preparation. Then it's recording day. As I said, I would do a rough setup when the musicians are not there. So, like when I have this orchestra from before, this takes. I mean, you would need a team for it. With a team of 4 people, this I would plan like 3 hours. Be 3 hours early, maybe 4 hours early. If you're really early, then 4 hours, but 3 hours would be fine. And then I would just ensure everything is working, make a line check, see that every microphone is working. What else? I make it look nice. Bonus points for good cable management. It is not necessary, I would say, but it just looks professional if all your cables are nice and taped and all in straight lines. If they're running in straight lines, etc. I tend to take the time because, it just looks nice. It's just good. And also, what I would do is record some silence, because you will need it afterwards in editing and mixing. For example, yeah, right, Lewis. Musicians trip over cables. That's that's the whole thing. Yes, be prepared for that. I would record some silence in between when I have time, because it is one thing, it is good to have just a general noise floor for denoising. Maybe there's an air conditioning you cannot turn off. Maybe something else. Maybe there's a train that goes by or something. It's just good to have this noise floor. And also, you will need it if you have a piece with several movements, like a symphony. You have movement 1 to 4. Yeah, it's mostly 4 movements in a symphony. And it sounds a little weird if you cut to silence after a movement and then the next movement comes on. So I tend to just put the room silence there, just to keep the, as I said, room sound is important. Just to keep the room sound going. Okay, then when the musicians arrive, I will set up the rest with them. See what are their needs. First of all, they need to see each other, especially in a small ensemble, because they're communicating during playing the music. For timing, etc. And they also have to see their score. So you might have to adjust your microphone positions a little bit. It's always, sometimes it's difficult because some musicians have very specific sorry, I'm missing a word here. They want very specific setups for their score and their microphone stand and whatever, their music stand, etc. So you might argue with them a little bit, but in most of the cases, it's fine. I mean, they're all there. We're all there because we want a good recording, so we would have to make adjustments. And the best position does not need to look good; it has to sound good. Of course, this is not possible or not really possible when you do a live recording, like when there's audience, and when the audience has to see your ensemble, if it has to look good for the audience. But in general, you can just experiment. Just move the musicians, it's a difficult word, musicians around around the room, see where it sounds good. Maybe in this one corner where, I don't know, the trash can lives, it sounds really nice. So you just put the musician in the corner with the trash can. It's totally fine. For example, it's not the trash can corner, but for example, in this case, where the picture is from, it has been recording of a piano and a vocalist. And usually, if there would be an audience, you would place the vocalist in front of the piano, so it looks nice and all. In this case, we didn't have an audience, so what should we do? Like, if we put him here, if we put him in front of the piano, first thing, they can't see each other very well because there's the piano in the way. And second thing is the microphone that points to the vocalist is also pointing to the piano, and you get a lot of crosstalk. So your additional microphones might not be useful in the end because you have so much crosstalk. You have both instruments, or piano and singer, on the same microphone, on all microphones, and that's not what you want from an additional microphone. That's only what you want for your main microphone. So we just positioned him across. We had a main microphone in the middle, some pointing in, most of them pointing in the direction of the piano, because this instrument will make up most of the room sound, basically. And then we had one of the main microphones pointed to the vocalist, and so they can see each other. There's nothing in between, and there's no crosstalk because those microphones point to the piano, those microphones point to the vocalist. So basically just see what works best, and it doesn't have to be has to look good. It just has to sound good. Okay, I said I will quickly touch on mic positions, but also, as I said, this is a whole topic for itself. Again, we have the setup from before with the piano here, the vocalist here, and this is the main microphone setup. And for classical music, you would not want to position your mics that close to the instrument. So, for example, I don't know, for a pop recording, if this was a pop recording, the microphone would be right in front of his mouth. It's not the case. It's like, I don't know, almost a meter away, I think. A little bit less, but still. And there's basically a threshold between the direct sound coming from the instrument and the room sound. You can spot that if you stand in front of the musician, he plays, and you just go back and forth and see where it changes. There's some point where it just changes to this is mostly room sound, and you go forward, this is mostly direct sound from the instrument. And that's roughly where you want to put your microphone for classical music. It is the same for the main microphone. So if you have an orchestra, of course, this has a much bigger radius of direct sound, so this would be further away. But it's the same principle, basically. Yeah, this is, again, you can see roughly how far out the microphones are positioned. Like for jazz recordings or something, I've seen microphones being in the piano and basically directly on the strings. So this is, in most cases, something we don't want. And then, lastly, recording process. Everything is set up. You can start recording. Get at least one good take of everything, because otherwise, you will. It won't be good in editing. Like you will cry in editing, basically. No playthrough is perfect, so make multiple playthroughs and see where are the mistakes, and just have, you need every bit has to be good or perfect in some takes. It doesn't have to be all of them, but yeah, you need something good. You need a good version of the piece. Also, take in account playing an instrument is exhausting. Some more exhausting than others, but especially woodwinds or brass can get exhausting very quickly. So you need to account for that. Also, just ask the musicians, like, how you're feeling with this. Can we do this take again? Can we do it again? How many times can you play this before it just won't sound good because you're tired? So yeah, basically what to look out for: the score, of course. It has to be right what they're playing, but if it's only right, it's not. It has no character. So the musical aspects are also very important. Things like interpretation. How do you, or how is the ensemble interpreting your piece? How's the energy of the take? How's the tempo? Are they holding their tempo over several takes, or do you have to adjust? Sometimes it can be good to play back some recorded stuff for the musicians. So, firstly, it can be very different being in front of the microphone and being behind it, like having your headphones on. The impressions can be very different, so this might be a good idea just to let the musicians listen, give them the tempo, so you have everything in one tempo afterwards. Be organized. I tend to mark my takes very excessively, good takes and bad takes. I mark them in my DAW and on the score, with different colors and all. It could be easier, but I tend to do different colors and all. Also, yeah, communication is key again. Just talk to the musicians. As I said, the impressions can be very different before and in front and behind the microphone. Also, what I tend to mark is the noises. Like someone is, I don't know, sneezing in one take. Then I would quickly mark this in my DAW as a noise I don't want. And then I immediately know there's a noise. I have to edit it out somehow in post. Of course, yes, cough. That's right. Yeah, I mean, communication is key. You're working together with the musicians, with the conductor, or whoever is leading the ensemble. Yeah, you're basically you're teaming up to get the best recording possible. So just keep that in mind. And of course, after that comes a ton of work like editing. You will have very many little snippets that you have to put together in a sensible recording so it sounds good, mixing, etc. But that's way too much to do in one talk. So, first of all, thank you very much. Thank you for listening. And are there any questions? I have no idea if there were already questions because I have not been looking at the chat, but I will look at it now. So you have some time to ask question if you like. Okay, the chat keeps updating. Just pop them again in the chat. If you already asked, just write them again. The chat is weird. Do you have a spreadsheet to keep track of all the equipment and planning? Yes, I have. It's lots of spreadsheets. Basically, yeah, the microphone plan, etc., is a spreadsheet, and I mark what microphone I use, where I want to use it, which channel is it in my setup, how long has the cable to be, because that also differs, things like that. Yes, I have a huge spreadsheet. How many engineers are often on a project like this? Depends. If it's a very small one, like the piano and vocal recording, this one I would do alone. If it's an orchestra, and if you're recording multiple days, for example, it is, I would say, 3 people minimum. Better 4 or 5 people for setup and cleanup after, because this is just packing up microphones or building up microphones. Just it takes so much time, and it's so much stuff you have to get around. So it's good to have lots of people. And also for the recording, it can be nice to have one person who is leading the recording. So this would be the one who has the score and everything and keeps track of the music and everything that's interpretation, basically. Then you would have an engineer who keeps track of levels and mix and everything during the recording, and then someone who marks the takes. So that's very useful when it's a big recording. Multiple instruments. Sorry, I noticed you had multiple instruments on the one, multiple mics on the one instrument. I'm sorry, what are they for? In this case, they were to compare them. It's something I often do. Just put different microphones when I'm not sure which one sounds best, just to compare them, or also to mix them together in the end. It's not uncommon. It's very common actually to put multiple microphones. Just to see how they sound and just to put them together after. Okay. How do you get hold of so many mics? And if so, I'm sorry. Do you add in extra mics cables in order for safety, in case any break, etc., or do you get exactly what you need as it's too expensive to rent more than required? Yeah, you rent them usually if you don't have them. There's some people who just have lots of microphones, but they're so expensive. So this is not common there. In most cases, you rent them. In my case, I had the luxury that my university had a lot of mics, so I could just rent them there. Or when I was working in the concert hall, they just had the microphones, so I did not have to buy it. But then I'm also limited to the microphones they have, and I cannot really request any others. And yes, you take extra mics in case something breaks, extra cables, extra everything. Absolutely. For the setup with the main mics in the middle, what are the polar patterns and distances on the bar? In this case, I don't know exactly, but for main mics, it's often a sphere. There are also main mic setups with what is this called in English? Damn it, cardioid. I think it's called cardioid. I hope so. But mostly it's a sphere, and then there's lots of math behind how the distance has to be or can be, how you can adjust the distance. Cardioid, yeah, thanks. Um, yeah, if you adjust the distance, like the angle, it will give you a wider or smaller recording angle. So this is something you have to either know or just do the math before. I'm sorry, where am I? Do you need to be a classical musician to be able to record on this level? I would say yes, because it takes a long time to learn all those things and to get into classical music on this level. You don't have to be very good in your instrument. Like I'm okay with my instrument. I could not. I always wanted to study. I play the clarinet. I always wanted to study my instrument, but I think I was not good enough. So you don't have to be very proficient in with your instrument, but you have to be somewhat proficient and have to know. Yeah, just have to really know classical music, listen to it a lot, know how how structures how the structures of classical music are, etc. So I'd say you have to have a good understanding of an instrument to record it. Not to record it, to record the classical music. So uh, okay, I'm sorry. Da, 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 da. I've seen setups with ORTF plus outriggers, but wasn't sure how that worked if you also had something behind. Not exactly sure what you mean. What do you mean with behind, Sam? If you're still there, maybe while you're typing, I would just ask. Uh, oh, this you mean? Um, with the ORTF, it might be difficult because the ORTF is the cardioid, and it is more directional than the sphere. So I wouldn't do that with the ORTF. Okay. Is there a reason we still record orchestras, etc., with cello, double bass, deeper instruments, blah blah blah. Why don't we place bassy percussive instruments in the center? We don't place bassy percussive instruments in the center. That's the whole point. It is. I know it's good practice in other genres to just put the bass instruments in the center. In classical music, this is especially not the case. So what I want to do is record everything as natural as it is in real life. Like there's an orchestra playing on the stage, and what I want to do is capture exactly the sound it does. It should sound like I am in the audience of this room. Just better because I have the perfect listener position. Or was it? Oh, I'm sorry. I might have misread the question. Let me read it again. Your question is, why do we record them to the side and not to the middle? Because we want to. I think this is historical reasons, historical orchestra setups. Sometimes they place double bass, etc., in the middle. Just as Jack said, it's part of the acoustics in the concert hall and how it travels, how it sounds best. What is the best room you have recorded in? That's a difficult one. I would say the local concert hall where I worked. It's Tonhalle Düsseldorf. I might have a link. It's a nice room. It's not the best room that there is. There are many rooms I would like to record in, but this is a really nice room. Are there any techniques from classical that you use in field recording? I wouldn't say techniques. I would say I use a lot of my knowledge from classical music because I also learned a lot of the tech and math behind these microphone setups, like if you're doing AB or RTF or MS. So I would, for example, for field recording, I'm using mostly MS because I think it just sounds better. Yeah, so no technique in this case. No, not really. Not me googling what outtakers are. That's the two additional microphones for the main microphone. I had it somewhere. Maybe I can find it. Let me see. Yeah, there it is. So those are the outriggers. This is the main microphone. Those you don't technically need, but they're just nice to have. Okay. I actually have no idea how much time we have left. If there are not any questions. Is the French horn so difficult to record as people say? Or brass instrument in general? The French horn is a difficult one, yes. It's not particularly difficult to record. It's just there are different opinions on how it's best. Some say you need to record the. No, I'm losing my vocabulary again. The where the sound comes out, the big thing at the end of the instrument. I'm so sorry. Some say you need to record there. Some say just record from the front. bell? I have no idea. I'm so sorry. You know what I mean. Um, some also say it's best to record from behind. So it is not difficult to record, I'd say. It's just a matter of opinion. There are lots of opinions on French horns. Okay. Then I would say I will end the stream now. Thank you very much for joining me. It was very nice. And I don't know, I will see you. Enjoy the other left Airwiggles talks that are left. And maybe we'll see each other. You can always, if you have more questions, just message me. And yeah, thank you very much. Bye.